So the Shanti mantra for today is from Prapanna Gita on page 166 of the book Universal Prayers. This book Universal Prayers has a lot of prayers collected from various sources, from the Vedas, Puranas, other scriptures, compiled by Swami Yatishwarananda Ji. It's on page 166, the second one on that page. And the English translation is on page 167. Om Nanyad vadami na shrunomi na chintayami Nanyat smarami na bhajami na chashrayami Bhaktya tvadiya charanam bhajamantarena Sri Srinivasa Purushottama Dehi Dasyam. O Lord, Thou Supreme Being, in my devotion I shall not speak of, nor hear of, nor think of, nor recall, nor adore, nor resort to anything other than Thy lotus feet. O Thou, the seat of all virtue and majesty, grant unto me the privilege of serving Thee. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May there be peace in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. Last time, we were studying sloka number 33 in chapter 3. Here, Sri Krishna Bhagavan raises the question. The sloka is Sadrisham cheshtate swasya prakriter jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Jnanavanapi, even a jnani, a wise person, all beings, including wise people, swasyaha prakritehe sadrishyam cheshtate. Cheshtate means do all their work, act according to their own prakriti. Swasyaha prakritehe sadrishyam, according to one's own prakriti, nature, we all act. Prakritim yanti bhutani, all beings follow the dictate of prakriti. Prakriti will understand what it is. Nigraha kim karishati, what will repression do? Nigraha means repressing, suppressing our tendencies. Prakriti here means the internal prakriti, not the outside prakriti. Prakriti has two aspects. Outside prakriti, like all the nature we see, the earth, air, water, mountains, trees, everything, all part of prakriti. Similarly, our inward nature, our tendencies, inherited from previous samskaras, inherited tendencies. Sri Ramakrishna talked about inherited tendencies in the gospel. The recorder of the gospel at the beginning did not believe in inherited tendencies. He was Western educated. Then gradually Sri Ramakrishna taught him that it plays a very powerful part in our life. Inherited tendency means whatever we have done, said, and thought, those impressions we have accumulated in our mind, subconscious part of the mind, they are there and they exert a powerful influence. We all act according to our tendencies. Our tendencies are different. It can be sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic tendencies. I'll give you an example how tendencies affect our action, every action that we do now. What we do now largely depends upon our previous tendencies. How it happens, different from person to person. Supposing there is a lady walking on the street. sidewalk with a little holding her child's hand. A 5-year-old child is walking. She is holding the child's hand. They're walking in the street, and other people are walking in the street too. So when one person sees that mother walking with her child, his mind reacts in one way. He remembers his own child, his wife walking with his child with love, the feeling of motherly love, all those feelings will come to that person's mind. Another person with unhealthy, impure tendencies, when he looks at the same picture, some unhealthy thought arises in that person's mind. Same stimulus, same lady, same child, everything is same. Two people watch it, they get different impressions. They react differently to the same scene. So different from person to person. Why? Because their inherited tendencies are different. So we all act according to our inherited tendencies. What we have done, say that momentum carries us forward. If that is the case, then where is the scope for self-effort? Then we are all our actions are set in concrete. We can't change anything. If inherited tendencies completely control our present action, then there is no free will. There is no freedom to act or change. So that is not the case. In the following verse number 34, Sri Krishna says, yes, there is scope for change. We can change our tendencies, not all of a sudden completely, but little bit by little bit we can change by changing our present thoughts. The present, at this moment, what I am thinking in my mind is in my control. I can let my thought be guided by previous tendency, or I can change that thought into a positive thought. If a negative thought comes into my mind, I can go along with it, or I can change it. Every moment we should be thoughtful, mindful of what we are thinking. Every moment we should be asking ourselves what I am thinking now. If some unhelpful thought is in my mind, I should say, why am I thinking about this useless thought? Let me think about God. Let me think about something good, positive. That present self-effort is also available to us. That is more clearer in the 6th chapter, shloka number 5, very important shloka in the Gita, self-effort, chapter 6, shloka number 5. We will come to that, but please make a note that self-effort is the key to human life. Animals don't have that much self-effort. They live by instinct. When they are hungry, they eat. When they're tired, they sleep. But we have scope to change our life. That's the specialty of human beings. We have been endowed with that faculty to be able to change the direction of our life. So we were discussing this last time. So this moment I can change. That is in Shloka 5, chapter number 6, where Sri Krishna says, Uddharedatmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanah. The first part is important. Atmana atmanam uddharet. Atmanam is by my own self. I should lift myself up. Self-effort. We can't expect somebody else to come to change our life. They can give help suggestions, they can help, but I have to do the work. I can change my life. This is open to us. So that comes in the subsequent shlokas. So we now go to shloka number 34. There is scope for self-effort, and we have to use self-effort. We can change the direction of our life, but we have to make a willful effort. That is what the message of Gita is. We should not say, oh, I'm made like this is my fate. I was born like this. My parents didn't teach me that, putting the blame on their parents. Some people do that one. For everything that happened, they put the blame on their parents. What good parents can do, they did their best. I am in charge of my life, not my parents. They have done their part. They're doing their part. I should be grateful, ever grateful to the parents for bringing me this into this world. So let us go to sloka now 34. Where is the scope for self-effort? That is explained in sloka number 34. इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितौ तयोर्न वशमागच्छेत् तौ ह्यस्य परिपन्थिनौ. Indriyasya, Indriya means sense organs, all the sense organs, 10, including mind, 11. Indriyasya artha, Indriya artha means sense objects, sense organ, sense objects. Ragadvesha vyavastitau, in the sense objects, Indriyasya artha, in the sense objects, Indriyani, they have attraction and repulsion. Raga, dvesha. Raga means attraction. When we see something, we are attracted to it. When we see something else, we are turned away by it. Where is that attraction and repulsion? In the sense organs, in the mind. It is not fixed. It changes. Supposing I see somebody today, I feel attracted to that person. I see the same person a few months later, I don't like that person. At one time I liked him. No, I don't want to have anything to do with him. What happened? Same person. It is the play of the mind. So that is where we have freedom to change. We can change how we react to sense objects. Sense objects are there. They are not doing anything good or bad. They are simply there. It is how we react to sense objects that is in our control. I can have a positive reaction. I can have a negative reaction when I see somebody or something or some situation. It can be a person, a situation, or object, or whatever, or work. That is where we have freedom. That's where we have control. I can change the way I react, I relate to sense objects. People, work, result of work, everything. I can direct the way in which I relate to them. I can relate to them in a positive way or in a negative way. It's up to me. That's where I have freedom. Tayorna vashamagachet. We should not be swayed by ragadvesha. I should be objective, not guided by my likes and dislikes. Ragadvesha means likes and dislikes. Generally, we are guided by likes and dislikes. I do something because I like it or like somebody. But that changes. The same thing I may start disliking, or the other way, vice versa. I should not be guided by likes and dislikes, but should be guided objectively. Tayo means ragadvesha. I should not become swayed by I should not be swayed by the likes and dislikes, ragadvesha, attraction, repulsion. Tauhyasya paripanthi. Now, there are paripanthi means obstacles in our spiritual life. So, likes and dislikes should not guide our actions and thoughts. Our actions and thoughts must be guided by objective considerations, not by our personal likes and dislikes. That is where we can control. Now, how to control our reactions to sense objects and situations and people? We have several guidelines in the Gita. I shall mention a few. Before that, in the Upanishads, there is a very nice verse. By nature, the Upanishad says, by their nature, sense organs and the mind have a natural tendency to go out and contact with sense objects and try to derive pleasure from that one. If I see something, I want to have it because having that will make me happy. That is how mind thinks. If I see something, I want to touch it. Or if I see something, I want to eat it. If I see something, I want to buy it and have it. This is how mind, sense organs react to sense objects. That is the natural tendency. But we should not be guided by natural tendencies. We should exercise our objective independent judgment. This object is there. Is it good for me, bad for me? Should I buy it or not buy it? Should I do it or not do it? That objective consideration must guide all our actions, not be guided by our tendencies. Tendencies will draw us in every direction, ragadvesha. not guided by Ragadvesha, likes and dislikes, but objectively. These Ragadvesha or the Paripanthino means they are obstacles in spiritual life, in worldly life also. So, how to be guided objectively? There are several guidelines given in the Gita. We'll stick to the Gita for now. First example, first instruction already saw. Second chapter, Shloka number 58 that we already studied. Old slokas which studied, we should remember them and bring them into association when we see something related. 258 is what? The example of the tortoise, Kurma. You remember that shloka? Yada sammarate chayam kurmonganiva sarvashaha indriyani indriyarthebhyastasya prajna pratishtita. That's how it runs here. When a tortoise sees a sense object, it can, if it senses danger, it will withdraw all the senses, limbs into its shell where it remains safe. In the same way, when I see a sense object, if it is not helpful, then I should withdraw my senses and put it in the mind. We should not go and contact the sense object. That contact is not helpful. That judgment we have to make. That is one. We should be careful about what sense object we pursue, what we should not pursue. Sense object means a person, work, or anything, any situation can be a sense object. One instruction. Then, third chapter, shloka number 8. Another instruction. These are instructions to be followed. Shloka number 8 in chapter 3. There, Sri Krishna says, Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajjayo hyakarmanaha shairayatra pichate na prasidhyeda karmanaha. First part is important. Niyatam kuru karmatvam. Niyata required obligatory duties, prescribed duties. Everybody has. It may be different from person to person. We all have our duties. What are the duties? We'll study a little bit later. We all have our duties. Swadharma will come to that in the next segment. We have to do that one. Nyatam kor karmatvam. If we don't do duties, we can't even maintain the body. Sharira yatra pichare na prasid. That is one instruction. Third instruction is shloka number 19, chapter 3, which we studied. That is one of the very important instructions Sri Krishna gives in the Gita. How we can, in a healthy way, relate to sense objects and work. 319, Tasma dasattas tatatam karyam karma samachara asapto hyacharan karma paramapnoti purushaha. Asaktaha karyam karma samachara. Karyam karma means required duties. Obligatory duties. We all have obligatory duties. How we should perform? Asaktaha samachara. Without asakta means without attachment. Attachment means this is my work, I am doing it, and I must get the benefit. That I is dominant in the ordinary person's mind. That should not be. Work is being done, and I happen to be the instrument or the servant. It's my privilege. And whatever result comes is for the good of everybody, the general good, not for myself alone. That way, we should become detached from karma phala. Asakta, what happens if we do that? One is explained in the second line. Asakto hyacharan karma paramapnoti purushaha. By performing all actions without attachment, asakta karma acharan. By performing all actions without attachment, what happens? Purusha means a human being. What happens, human being? Param apnoti, achieve the supreme. What is supreme is explained in the commentary. Supreme, param here means moksha. Shankara says moksha, we achieve liberation. How? Chitta Shuddhi Dwara, Sattva Shuddhi Dwara. Mind becomes pure and then it leads to liberation. How? By doing all our work with detachment. Asakto Shacharam Karma Paramapnuti Purusha. If we implement that one line, we can find a path to liberation, straight path to liberation. That one line instruction is enough. Gita has so many such instructions. If we just do one, that is enough to take us to liberation. It's full of instructions. It's called Yoga Shastra. It's a very practical scripture. There is philosophy, Adhyatma Vidya, but practice is the emphasis in Gita. In the Upanishad, Adhyatma Vidya is the emphasis. It talks about the nature of the self, Atman, everything is Brahman. That is the knowledge part of it. This is the yoga practical part of it. Gita is a very practical manual for human life. If you one instruction, if you follow, there is enough. So many instructions are there. Asakto hyacharam karma paramapnoti purushaha. So in this way, we have to exercise objective control, not be guided solely by previous tendencies. That is where we have freedom, we have to exercise the freedom. We should not say, oh, this is how I am. Not like, this is how I can be, so I want to be, this is how I can be. If you are interested to pursue this freedom that we all have, but all of us don't sometimes use it, there is one lecture I strongly recommend. Many of you already seen that lecture. Pravrajika Divananda Pranaji's lecture. She has given talked about it in many places, but one particular lecture I liked very much. I watched it a couple of times. The title of her lecture is The Miracle of Positive Thinking. The Miracle of Positive Thinking by Divananda Pranaji. Very, very nice lecture. It's not a very long lecture, a little over for half an hour or so. There she explains how every one of us, without exception, has freedom to become what we want to become. You are not helpless. We should not say, this is my karma, this is how I am, I cannot do this. No, that's not the right attitude towards life. Yes, I can do. I can change it overnight. I cannot become, for example, I cannot become NBA player right now, no matter how hard I try. I can't climb the Himalayas right now, no matter how hard it. That's not realistic. Realistic goal. Goal must be realistic. Something that I want to reach, I can reach. That I can. By changing my this thought, this moment, every moment. This moment I'm in charge of my mind. What I'm thinking is in my control. That is where we have to exercise freedom and control. Though the previous tendencies are there, but I can override the previous tendencies and then change the direction of my life. Change your thought, change your life. That is the message here in the Gita. Okay, let us go now to the next shloka. Here Swadharma comes. Shloka number 35. Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha Paradharmat Swanushtitat Swadharme Nidhanam Shreyaha Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Shreyan means better. Shreya means good, Shreyan means better. Swadharmaha, one's own duty, one's own dharma. We'll discuss Swadharma in some detail in this shloka. Vigunaha, though it is defective, sometimes our duties are not pleasant. For example, if you are working as a police officer, it's not a pleasant duty. It appears glamorous because outside you have the uniform and petrol car and everything you have. People think, no, it is very dangerous and very unpleasant kind of work. Only those who do that, they know the dangers involved. When one police officer leaves home in the morning for the shift, until a person comes home safely, that spouse will be waiting. Anything can happen in the 8-hour shift. It's dangerous. But if it is done with the proper spirit, then that work can lead to liberation. I'll give a specific example from Mahabharata in this sloka. Vyunaha, even if the duty is not pleasant, defective means dangerous or unpleasant. Defective. Swadharmaha Shreya, better to follow one's own duty. Paradharmat Sonushtitad, if somebody else's duty is more glamorous, I want to do that one. This duty I have is not to my liking. That should not be there. Whatever comes to my Lord by choice or design, whatever duty has come to me right now, it may be by my choice or it may be by force of circumstances. That is my duty I have to do properly. That will lead me to liberation. I don't have to become somebody else or something else. Swadharme nidhanam shreyaha, better to die performing one's own duty. Paradharmo bhayavaha, to copy or to try to be somebody else that I am not is dangerous. If there is a janitor working in a hospital, he has to do his janitorial duty. That is very essential. Most as important as treating patients, to keep the hospital clean. It's a sacred duty. But I don't like it. I want to become a nurse or I want to become a doctor. And that won't, if you put on a white coat, that will not become a doctor. That won't work. Just stick to your duty. Do it as worship. That will take you to liberation, whatever it may be. I'll give you two examples. How one's own duty, though unpleasant, if done well, leads to liberation. One is the Rasika story that has come before. In Dakshineshwar, there was a janitor whose name was Rasika. His duty was to sweep the floor and keep the ground, Dakshineshwar garden area ground clean. Now, he used to see so many people, gentlemen from Calcutta used to go to see Ramakrishna's room. There was a lot of philosophical discussion, singing, dancing, satsang, everything was there. He could not do anything of those things because he was a janitor. He was watched from outside. But he was doing his janitorial duties well. Even he got liberation. How? He had the longing for liberation. It was not given to him to go and join the satsang in that Sri Ramakrishna's room. He was not allowed because he was a janitor. But he did his own work, which was not very glamorous, with diligence and love. And he, by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna, he got liberation. How it happened, you know, the Rasika story is very nice. Briefly, it is like this. He used to watch all the people going to Sri Ramakrishna's room and singing, dancing, discussion, everything. He could not go. So one day he was waiting for an opportunity. Sri Ramakrishna was coming alone from the Panchavati side and going back towards his room. Then Rasika was sleeping before he got seized the opportunity. He fell at Sri Ramakrishna's feet. Baba, amaki hove. What will happen to me, Father? He very, with sadness, he prayed to Sri Ramakrishna, Father, what will happen to me? I don't know anything. I'm a janitor. Sri Ramakrishna said, don't worry, I will take care of you. He gave some instruction. You have grow some tulsi plant in your home. He told Rasika, Sri Ramakrishna told Rasika. And every time you have some time, go there, sit down near the tulsi plant and chant God's name. And the last day, Sri Ramakrishna went and guided him on. Sri Ramakrishna passed away. Rasika then retired and went back to his home. Then, as instructed, he used to chant God's name sitting near the tulsi plants in front of his house. On the last day he came, Rasika became sick. He was lying on his bed inside his home, and he knew it was his last day. So he told his wife and children to move his bed in front of the house near the tulsi plants. They said, no, you should stay inside. Why do you want to go outside? They didn't understand. No, you take me there, insisted. So he took him and put his bed near the tulsi plants. He laid down there. And then, all of a sudden, this Rasika, he started telling his, please bring one asura. He has come, please bring one asura. Please bring a seat quickly. He's standing there. They didn't see anybody. Nobody came. Only themselves. They thought he has become delirious. No. He insisted. So they brought some asana. And then Sri Ramakrishna came. Only he could see, other people could not see. Sri Ramakrishna held him by his hand and came forward to end of life. This is how, by doing his own janitorial duties, no glamour, nothing, no appreciation, nobody says thank you. He got the grace of God. One example. Second example in Mahabharata, Dharmavyada story. You can read about it in Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga book. I think it's in the chapter, each is great in his own place. In that chapter, Swami gives a short, abridged version of the Dharmavyada story, which comes in the Mahabharata. It's a very detailed story. Briefly, the story is there was a young sannyasi. He used to meditate under a tree, and he got some powers because he was able to concentrate. And one day when he was meditating under a tree, two birds were fighting on the branches above, and the feathers and everything were falling on his head. He became upset. These birds, foolish birds, are disturbing my meditation. So he cursed them, and because he had some powers, the birds fell down dead. Then sannyasi became very proud. I have some powers like that. So after that, he went for begging to the town. He stood in front of a house, and then he asked for food. Nobody came. He asked for food second time. Only 3 times you can ask. When he asked for food, the voice, lady from inside the house told him, oh, sannyasi, please wait. I'll bring some food for you. But he became very impatient and he became very angry. This lady should serve me first. I am a sannyasi. Why she is neglecting me? Then he became angry. The lady called him inside the house. She didn't even come out. She said, oh, sannyasi, don't become angry like that. I'm not the birds in the forest. Be patient. I'm serving my husband. I'll bring and give you food. Please wait for a minute. When she said that, from inside the house, sannyasi became astounded. How did this lady know about the birds? It happened in the forest. How could she know? So then he waits. After some time, she comes and she gives him food. And then the sannyasi asked that lady, Mataji, how did you know about the birds incident that happened in the forest? How did you know? Mother says, Mataji says, you see, Babaji, I don't have any knowledge. I'm just a housewife, cooking, cleaning, serving my family members, my husband, my parents. And I don't have any knowledge. No, but you know, how did you know about the birds? Then she said, Babaji, if you want to know, there is a butcher in this town on the street. Go to him, he will tell you more. How can a butcher teach me? Babaji, you go and ask him. So he went. As Babaji sannyasi was approaching the butcher shop, butcher recognized him. Oh, Babaji, did that lady send you here? Please come. He was astounded. How did this butcher can know that lady sent? These people are the Harman people. How do they have this knowledge? I don't have the knowledge. I'm a sannyasi, I meditate. So the butcher went, the sannyasi went. Butcher made him sit down. Customers were there. He served all the customers. Then he took the sannyasi home. Served the butcher served his parents, gave them food, old parents. Then he gave food to sannyasi. Then sannyasi asks him, how did you know? How did the lady know about the birds? How did you know about that I was being sent by the lady? What is this? You have all this knowledge. Then the butcher, a long conversation between the butcher and the sannyasi. But very shortly, sannyasi, the butcher tells this is what he sells. By doing my own duty, though it is unpleasant, by doing one's own duty, though it is unpleasant, one can gain knowledge. This is exactly what here he says in the 35th sloka. By doing one's own duty, though it is unpleasant, one can gain knowledge. We all can gain knowledge. We don't have to become a sannyasi, go to the forest, meditate. You can stay where you are with the family, with children, go to work every day, take care of children, cook, clean, whatever you're doing, keep doing that. So then do that one. But do it as required, asapto hyacharan karma, without attachment, as offering, as Sri Krishna says many times, whatever you do, offer it to me. By offering everything as puja, as worship, as offering, as instrument, as a servant, by doing work in this way, mind becomes pure, paves the way for realization, liberation. A straightforward way to liberation. You don't have to change anything. Work will be the same. Rishika's example, Dharmavela's example. So that is what this sloka says. So the next question is, what is Swadharma? How do we determine? How do I determine what my duty is? There are 4 different things we have to keep in mind in determining what is my Swadharma. Each one of us is Swadharma. What is my duty? First duty for everybody, all human beings, is Panchayagna, 5 debts to be paid. We all, when you are born as human beings, we incur 5 loans, 5 debts. Every day, every time you have to fulfill these 5 debts. Panchayagna or Pancharana, that's called. What are the 5 debts we have to repay? We have to repay the debt. From birth, we incur the debt. First is Devarana, indebtedness to God. Deva means God. We are indebted to God for what? For giving us human birth and human qualities. If you are born as animals or plants, we can't do liberation, we can't think about God, nothing. We just have to be there, finish that life frozen. No new karma can be done. Being a human birth, being born as a human being is the greatest gift we have already received. Greatest gift we can receive is human birth. Manushyatvam, mumukshutvam, desire for liberation, Mahapurusha samshraya, guidance of a holy person. All the 3 we have now. All 3 requirements, liberation we have now. So first gift loan is to thank God for making me human being. Thank God for giving me human birth in a good family. First, how do we repay God, debt to God? By worshipping God every day in your own way. Any kind of worship you do, chanting you do, japa you do, that's all worship of God, repaying debt to God. Second duty, second loan is Rishirana. Devarana, Rishirana. Rishi means the ancient sages. What are we indebted to them for? What did they give us? This knowledge of Vedanta, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, other scriptures. If those sages had not shared their knowledge, we would not have Upanishads. We would not have Gita. So that is, we are indebted to the Rishis, ancient teachers, and modern day teachers too, who made it possible for us to study Gita. Indebtedness to teachers. How do we repay that one? By studying the scriptures, by following their instructions and reaching the goal. Then they will be happy. A teacher becomes happy when the student excels in life. There's a primary school teacher. Every year he teaches new batch of students, ABCD 1, 2, 3, 4. But the students who go through the primary school, they go to middle school, high school, college, they become presidents and CEOs. He remains a primary school teacher all his life. But his life is fulfilled by doing his duty, preparing others to succeed. So we should pay our indebtedness to rishis by studying the scriptures, Swadhyaya. Third duty, third loan we uncover is to the parents, Pitrudana. Greatest loan, indebtedness to the parent. They brought us into this world, brought us up when we were infants, took care of us around the clock. How much attention, sacrifice parents have to do, especially a mother has to do to bring up a child, only a mother knows. Only a mother knows how much it is involved in bringing one child. So that indebtedness to mother we can never fully repay. No matter how much we do, how much we serve mother, we cannot fully repay everything that we received from the mother. Devotion to the parents, taking care of them, they are alive, providing for their well-being, everything, and being thankful to them, treating them nicely with love, not blaming them for our failures, but treating them with greatest love. We can't love the parents enough. That is third duty we owe to the parent. Third rana, Pitrana, Devarana, Rishirana, Pitrana. Then fourth duty we have, loan we have to repay, is indebtedness to all other human beings who make our life possible. As we saw earlier, nothing can be done without the help of other people. The food we eat is grown by some other farmers far away in this country or some other country. They work very hard in the fields so that we can comfortably eat food in our dining table on the dining rooms. How many people are involved in making the food available to us? The farmer who grows and the people who process, transport, and give it, make it available in the supermarket. Those people are helping our daily life. Without their effort, we can't eat food. That is one. Other people who make everything else possible. People who made the cloth we wear, we can't make the cloth in our basement workshop. People who make the cars we drive, the planes in which we fly. How many people? Thousands are involved in the production of those. I can't make my car in my basement workshop. How many people are involved in maintaining the roads on which we travel? Just to take one flight from Chicago or Raleigh to Washington, how many thousands are involved in the effort? We don't know. Behind the scene, they are working very hard to make the flight safe and possible. We are indebted to all of those people. Everything we have is made possible by the effort and labor of numerous other people. How do we repay we don't even recognize who they are. How do we repay this loan? By doing our own duty as service to people near to us. Those who are near us, we can serve them. By doing our duty as service, this is one way to repay the indebtedness we owe to all other people. Manusharana Narana. Fourth one. Fifth loan we have to repay is Bhutarana, our indebtedness to nature, plants and animals, and nature, earth, air, water, ocean, etc. We all our existence to these people. Unless trees, plants give us oxygen, how can we live? Not even 1 minute we can live without breathing in oxygen. Who gives oxygen? The plants, trees. People needlessly, thoughtlessly kill, destroy the forests and destroy the trees. Without them, we can't live. We can't breathe. They take the carbon dioxide and they give the oxygen. And we should work. That's why Hindus worship trees. Some people don't understand why you guys are worshipping trees, animals, they say. Without them, can we live? We should be worshipping the trees, actually. We do. That is our showing our indebtedness. We should nurture the plants, put them water, fertilizer, whatever we can do, and serve the plants, protect them with great love and gratitude. Animals also, without animals, can we live? The other day I gave the example of the lowly earthworm. How precious, crucial service it renders to human beings, we don't recognize. It's simply there. Earthworm makes the soil very fertile. So all bees, birds, and animals and insects, they all help in pollination, making the trees and plants grow and maintain the eco-balance in the ecological system. They all play a part. Animals and plants and trees and whole of nature, water, rain, sun, moon, all of them enable our life. Without sun's rays, can we live on this life? What do we do? Every day we have to pray to sun god. So all these things are 5 duties. Pancharana we have to do. Which way we do is we have to find out ways of serving animals and plants. That is one duty. All of that is one duty. Swadharma. We all have that Swadharma. Pancharana we have to do as human beings. Second duty is our work, chosen profession. Whether we are a teacher or a banker or a doctor or a janitor or a president or whatever we are, so many professions are there, thousands of professions we choose. That we have to do as worship. As Sri Krishna says again and again, do all your work as worship, as offering. Everything is an offering to God. Not just looking at the clock and when 5 o'clock and I want to go home. Not like that. With love and gratitude, we should be grateful for the work. Many people don't have the work. They are jobless. They are able to work, but they don't have a job. We are fortunate we have a job. Gratitude is the key. Thus, Thanksgiving we celebrated. We are grateful for so many things that we don't normally think about. Gratitude is an important thing. Interestingly, incidentally, I want to tell something I heard from a very dear friend recently. We are talking about gratitude, how we are grateful, but you don't recognize. There's an exercise. He told me to do this exercise. Starting from today, on a piece of paper, every day I should write 3 things for which I'm grateful. Every day, starting from today. I did that one for 21 days. He told me to do for 21 days. And I could not finish everything. Only a lot more things are available for which I'm grateful, but only 21 days are over. 63 things I wrote on paper. Still so many things for which I'm grateful. Every day you make this, do this exercise if you wish. On a piece of paper, today's date you write, and today's date you write 3 things for which you are grateful. What other people have done to you, good things for which you are grateful. 3 things you write. Tomorrow again, and tomorrow's date, they write 3 things. Like this to do for 21 days, he told me to do. It's a good exercise. Then you realize how grateful we are, how many things you have received. Normally, we don't think about this. Exercise makes us think about the things we have received from other people. Many, many things that we normally don't think about. This makes us think about gratitude. So we are grateful for having a job. So we have to do that job with love, efficiently, nicely. Yoga Karmasu Kausalam came in the second chapter. Efficiently means 3 aspects are there when you do some work. Swami Ranganathanji has explained this in his commentary. 3 things you have to keep in mind when you do any work, office work or anything. First thing is efficiency, without wasting time and material, efficiently, one thing. Second thing is the work that we do must make me a better person. It must improve my personality. I must become more detached, more unselfish, more loving, more giving. It must make me a better person. Everything I do must make me a better person. Second thing. Third thing, the work I do must make the place a better place. When you go to some room in your home or in workplace or anywhere, when you leave the room, it must be a better room than when it was when you entered the room. You are entering that room must make the room a better place. Something you do, pick up some dirt, it is on the floor, put it in the dustbin. That's one thing. The environment in which you work, the family in which you work, the workplace in which you work must be a better place because of my work. Not creating more problem and negativity in the workplace, but making it a more positive place, which everybody must be happy to work there with me. Everyone must think of me as a good co-worker, not somebody that they want to shun. They should feel like they want to work with me. I should be a team player. Second, my chosen work that I have to do as worship, as offering. Third thing is our duty to the family. You are all one unit. You can't live independently. You're related. Even though family, ashrama is also a family. Other people are in ashrama. Lovingly doing our duty by them, parents and children and grandparents and old people and guests and everybody. That is third aspect. Fourth aspect of sadharma is duty to society. You are a part of the society. I can't live independently of the society in a forest. I'm living in a society where everybody is helping, making my life possible, contributing to my life. So what do I do in return to the society? Some kind of volunteer work, or some donation, some charity, something has to be done to serve the society. Which way we have to figure out ourselves, depending on the circumstances, our ability, resources, and other things. These are the Swadharma, different types of Swadharma. We have to determine the details and do it as worship, as offering, as a servant, with love, with gratitude, with joy, prem se, with love. Not grudgingly, oh, why should I do this one? Not like that. Joyfully doing that. That paves the way for liberation. All this is how we'll try for liberation, not meditation for hours and hours that some people can do. By doing our work properly, asakto hyacharan karma, paramapnoti purusha, one line in the Gita is enough if we implement it in our daily life. So that is the sloka number 35. You can read more about it in one chapter in the Karma Yoga book, What is Duty? There are 8 chapters. One chapter is called What is Duty? One of the 8 chapters in Karma Yoga book by Swami Vivekananda. There you have discussed all these things in more detail. Dharma Veda story also comes there. Okay, that is sloka number 35. Now, Very interesting new topic comes. Sloka number 36. Very nice topic Sri Krishna introduced. Arjuna asked a question. Arjuna uvacha atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha. Very interesting topic Arjuna raises. Purusha means a human being, not necessarily a man. Purusha means a human being. Purushaha papam charati, performs sinful deeds. Kena prayuktaha, impelled by what? Why does a person do bad deeds? All kinds of bad deeds people do. Why do they do bad deeds? General question. Anichannapi, though he is not wanting to do bad things, willfully some people do bad things. Some people don't intend, but they still are forced to do bad things by prakriti. The nature propels them to do bad things. Anichannapi, first name is Arjuna, first name is Krishna. Baladiva niyojitaha, as if forced by some power, as if somebody is pushing him against his will to do something bad. That happens sometimes. Why do people do bad deeds? One question. Arjuna's important question. Why do we do bad mistakes? We all do mistakes sometimes. Why do we do mistakes? One question. The answer is very interesting or very important. So we'll go to sloka number, almost time, 37. We'll do 37. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kamayesha Krodayesha Rajo Gunasamudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyena Miha Vairinam. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Shri Bhagavan says, only one thing is there. Esha means singular. This. Esha means this pronoun. But it appears like two sides of a coin. Only one coin is there. It has two sides. They can't separate the sides. One is there, other is there also. What is that one thing that makes us do mistakes? Kama esha, krodha esha. This is kama, this is krodha. Only one thing, not two. There are two sides, two things mentioned, but they are one. Kama esha, krodha esha. Kama and krodha. Kama means all kinds of desire, uncontrolled, unhealthy desires. Kama, krodha means anger. They come together. Kama esha, krodha esha. How do they come? Rajo guna samadbhava, because of uncontrolled rajas. As we saw before, we are made up of three gunas: sattva, rajas, and tamas. If rajas is too much and not enough sattva, then desire comes, anger comes, and we do all kinds of bad things. Later we may regret it, but once you do it, you can retrace your work. Once done is done. No matter how much you try to correct it, sometimes it becomes more you try to correct, worse it becomes. So that should not be done. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna sammoha, because of excessive rajas, born of rajas. Mahashano, mahapapma. Mahashana means voracious. It destroys all our good deeds. Whatever how good we have done, if you do something bad, it will be nullified. It eats up everything. Mahashana eats up everything. Mahapapma, it makes us do great sins. Mahapapma. Vidhi means understand. Iha, vidhi, enam iha. Enam means this, kama krodha. Iha means here, in this life. Vairinam vidhi. Know this to be the enemy. Vairi means enemy. Vidhi means know this kama krodha to be the enemy in human life. People are not our enemies. Kama krodha are our real enemies. There are 6 enemies. 2 major of them are kama and krodha. The 6 enemies, Arishad Varga, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. 6 of them. There are more, 6 are commonly mentioned. Kama means lust, uncontrolled, uncontrolled, adharmic desire. Kama. Krodha means anger. Lobha means greed. Moha means delusion, misunderstanding, not being able to think properly and see things properly. Moha. Mada means pride. Matsarya means jealousy. These three are six common enemies. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Lust, anger, greed, delusion, pride, jealousy. These are enemies. Of them, Kama, Krodha are more powerful. So, the reason why people do mistakes, Bhagavan's answer is Kama and Krodha, lust and anger. Next time, we'll discuss more details how these things make us do mistakes and how to become free from Kama Krodha. That's more important thing. We'll stop here. There are a few more verses. Third chapter. If you have questions, please call me or send me email on this topic. I'll be happy to answer as much as I know.
What is your email?
Okay.
Swamiji?
Write it down. First six letters of my name. Brahmarupananda, BRAHMAR. 6 letters of my name at hotmail.com.
At?
BRAHMAR at hotmail.com.
Hotmail.
Okay.
First 7 letters, Swami.
BRAH 7 letters there. I said 6. 7 letters.
Brahmar at hotmail.com.
Yes.
Brahmar.
Brahmar at hotmail.com.
Okay. We'll write to you.
Anything you want to ask now?
Maharaj,
Yes. Junu has a question.
that sixth one you said
Jealousy.
the sixth one, no, the duty towards our family, that is the third. Fourth is duty towards the society. And what is the fifth one? I missed that.
No.
Towards trees and plants.
5 loans, 5 debts, first one.
No, not that one. I'm
And
talking.
second one is the duty to the profession we are chosen work.
It's 3 o'clock.
Work day. And third one is responsibility to serve the family, duty to the family.
Yeah.
Fourth one is to duty to society.
Yeah. Fourth one. There is no fifth for here.
See the 6 enemies.
Oh, but for the duty, there are 4 of them, not the fifth one. Okay.
I knew only about the 3 karma, Swamiji, not 4. Namaskaram, by the way. Pitru Runam, Rishi Runam, and Deva Runam. I didn't know what was the 4th one. Pitru Runam, Rishi Runam, Deva Runam.
Those are 5 runas. I'll tell them again. 5 runas that we incur as human beings. First is Devarana, indebtedness to God for giving us human birth. Second is Rishirana, indebtedness to rishis for giving us the scriptures, knowledge, Vedanta knowledge. Third is Pitrarana, indebtedness to parents and grandparents for bringing us to this life and giving us education, making us help us grow up nicely. 3. Fourth is Nararana or Manusharana, indebtedness to other human beings for making everything possible in our lives. All other people who help us to lead our daily lives. Then 5th one is Bhutarana, indebtedness to nature, animals, plants, and nature. Nature includes
How do you repay Manusharuna and Bhutaruna?
Bhutarana. All beings.
Right.
Includes nature, sun, fire, air, water, earth, everything.
How do you repay Manusharuna and then Bhutaruna?
Manusharana we repay by doing our own service to other humans, serving other people as much as possible, helping the needy, etc. Any kind of help, one way. And how to serve nature? By protecting nature, by not putting a litter on the ground. Mother Earth has to be protected, and protecting the water, the resources, etc. Not creating air pollution, water pollution, taking care of trees and animals. protect dictation and animals in any way we can.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Not making too much noise. You know, in some India's, in some celebration, Ganesh Chaturthi, Durga Puja, so much noise they make. If they're doing it with good intention of devotion, that's good. But in the neighborhood, old sick people, they cannot sleep at night. So that noise pollution is good expression of devotion, but if it causes inconvenience to other people, we should be careful. Like that. Serving
Thank you,
others.
Swamiji.
Very good.
Swamiji, what is moha? Kama, krodha, lobha, moha? Is it delusion? Moha?
Misunderstanding, not being able to understand things properly, misinterpreting things.
I see, okay. And there is no Guru Runa, all the other Runa, but there is no Guru Runa.
That comes in the Bhutarana, Bhutarana.
Okay.
Earth. Every morning when we get up, you should say a prayer to Mother Earth before putting our feet.
Yeah, yeah.
Samudra Vasane Devi Parvatastana Mandale Vishnu Padni Namastabhyam Padasparsham Samaswame. O divine, O Earth, Mother Earth, I have no choice but to keep my feet on you. So I'm going to keep my feet on you. Please forgive me and bear me, protect me. I ought to walk on you and like that, step on you.
Okay, thank you.
Before putting the feet, we should say the prayer when we wake up in the morning.
When you go for your walk.
And pray out to sun every day for giving us sunlight and protecting. Without sunlight, we can't live. Nothing, no animal, nothing, plant can live.
Pancha Mahabhuta.
Closing prayer. Okay. Om Sarve Bhavanta Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may all be happy. May all be free from diseases and afflictions. May all realize what is noble and auspicious. May no one be subject to misery. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. Adhyatmika Shanti. May there be peace and harmony amongst all the beings. Adi Bhautika Shanti. May there be peace everywhere in nature. Adi Daivika Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. All of you stay well and stay in touch. Thanks very much.